Welcome to our Game 2 recap of the Toronto Maple Leafs Tampa Bay Lightning series. I'm here with David, Christian. These guys did Game 1 without me. No one wanted to be there for that, especially not me because obviously the scoreline wasn't too good. But these guys did a fantastic job with that. But I'll tell you what, the Leafs did a fantastic job this game, so everybody showed up this time. And I'm gonna start quickly, kind of like how Mitch Marner started the game quickly last time by scoring in 46 seconds, something like that. Let's take it away, boys. Let's go through everything that happened last night, I guess.
I mean, Brian, you started off pretty hot and fast, right? Just like the Leafs did tonight. It literally, I think so I believe Ian Cole got a trip in. It must have been like 30 seconds into the game because it was that top line. One thing we talked about last game, Christian, was the galaxy brain of Sheldon Keefe, right? So last game he started the Tavares, Nylander, O'Reilly
O'Reilly.
line.
Yeah.
And then he took them off, I think, with it must have been like 20 seconds. And he put out, I think it was the third line for 20 seconds. And then the fourth line I think that the third line maybe only had like a 10-second shift. And then the fourth
Yeah.
line was on for the first Tampa Bay goal in game 1, right? And it started off like, it really set the tone early, right? So what did the Leafs try to do? They tried to set the tone early, and that they did. What a better way to set the tone early when you're at home than starting off with your first line, your big boys. The two of the four guys, or two of the three guys who make over $10 million on the payroll are starting off the game. And one of them, I believe Ian Cole got a hook in the skates. And he took Mitch Marner down, which will happen because Mitch Marner is hands down one of the fastest straight line skaters on the team. Even like shifty side to side like strides. Like once he's going, you're not catching him, right? That's probably the only way to stop him. So the Leafs get a big power play early. Christian, that power play last game, you know what? For all the faults of last game, I have to say the one thing I was a bit worried about heading into the playoffs personally was that power play. They always didn't look like they were firing on all cylinders. How impressed have you been with the Leafs power play in the playoffs so far?
All right. This is like a cop out, but obviously it looked better last night than game one. And I know we scored 2 power play goals in game one, but this felt way more aggressive. There was more purpose behind our power play. It was just way more. We were way more willing to move the puck quickly. We weren't hesitating on the power play. And yeah, Mitch, the goal he scores here is a signature Mitch move. It's that half clapper, not too high, he just kind of sips one through traffic and it finds its way through. And yeah, that I think this was the Mitch game. As much as Riley had 4 assists and Tavares had a hat trick, the player who I felt had the biggest impact on the game was Mitch Marner. He scored the most important goal of the game, and that was this first goal. That, like we said, set the tone. First shot of the game. I felt like it was a huge weight off of his shoulders. And I know that we ended last game's talk. At least I said I went quickly through who I thought maybe was good, who I wasn't that impressed with. I wasn't that impressed with Mitch Marner, despite him having a 3-point game. If you go back and look at some of those goals, especially the power play ones, on the Nylander goal, Marner made the assist maybe 15 seconds before Nylander scored. And that was from Willie taking the puck from the corner. He came all the way up, methodically skated, and then he sniped it. So I don't know how much value I want to give Marner for those assists. And he just didn't seem like his confident self. He seemed like past playoff Marners where you see him get down on himself. The body language isn't the greatest. The passes aren't the crispest. Totally different story tonight. Totally different story. Huge weight off his shoulders with that goal. And my God, pumped up after that one.
Oh my God, I was at like, dude, if you weren't out of your seat, if you weren't like on your feet applauding and cheering after that, like you might need to get your Leafs fan card revoked because that goal in itself. I think the biggest theme going throughout this game was the chicken soup for the Leafs soul tonight. That was exactly what the doctor ordered, right?
Yeah.
After such an embarrassing performance. And I don't even know if we make much about the third period of game one, Christian?
We talked a little bit about it and the lack of
Yeah.
a physical response, and we
Mhm.
both came to the conclusion that we would have liked to have seen something because, and what we came to was the idea that this is a series, right? These aren't isolated games. You're playing the same guys next game, and after that, and after that. So what you do in one game, in terms of a physical standpoint, definitely has an effect on the next game. You tell me Tanner Genoa and his busted up hand isn't going to affect him in the next
Oh.
game?
Oh
Sure
yeah.
as hell it will. So yeah.
100%.
Brian,
Right?
did you have anything? Did you see the from puck drop? Did you see anything at the start of this game that made you feel one way or another? Or
You guys like the engine was started before like the car ran, if that made sense. You guys came out flying, A,
we had
and
that
B,
remote start?
yes. And B, Ryan O'Reilly was just perfect on the dot today. Like
Oh
faceoffs.
Man.
I
yeah,
think that's how you scored 2 or 3 goals last night, if I'm not mistaken. Literally just off faceoff plays, especially the first one. That one was clear and noticeable.
Yeah.
Ryan O'Reilly wins it back. Riley passes it to someone, and then that person passes it to Martin, who just throws it on net and scores.
so
Yeah.
this is interesting. I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at the box score. The face-off percentage on the whole for the night was
Even
actually 50%. So I didn't realize that, and a lot of that can come down to the fact that it was the third period. We weren't always putting the big guys out there, right? Maybe it was a bunch of face-offs that we weren't expected to win. So that could be part of
I
it. But yeah, that's
I
interesting. And it
think
came out 50-50.
I think they did read a stat. I believe it would have been in the second period, if I'm not mistaken, where Tampa did actually have they were talking about, so game one, um the one of the underrated, I don't even think we brought it up. We might have made a quick mention of it, but I believe the Leafs had like 75%, were 75% from the faceoff dot. It was something astronomically crazy. But I think that also goes to the point of, they were most likely playing in, like, a lot of those faceoffs felt like they were in their own end. They were defensive zone draws. So guys like David Kampf were taking them. Yeah, JT was taking some of them, but I don't really remember Matthews taking too many defensive zone
No,
draws in the first
they
game,
they
right?
almost always try to get them out on the ozone for a
On the
draw.
ozone, right? So maybe that has something to do with it, but look at the difference, right? So you win 75%. So it's not to say like you win the lion's share of the draws, you win the game, right? Because the Leafs
Yeah.
won the lion's share and then they got pumped for 7 goals, right? You got to put everything all together, right? It seemed like, maybe that was more even tonight. Maybe Tampa was winning more of their D zone draws, whatever. But at the end of the day, their net front, especially on a couple of goals, man, Tampa's net front presence today was pretty weak. Like not
Dude,
to the standards of what
yeah.
they should be holding themselves to 100%. But
Is
I
it the
don't know.
standard or is it the fact that two of the defensemen that
Yeah,
are
no,
usually in this
100%.
healthy lineup, right? I
That
think it's
doesn't
column A,
help.
column B, right? It is column A, column B.
Yeah.
It is funny how I remember saying when we did our post game last time, I'm like, it'd be nice to see both teams show up to a game, and we still really haven't seen
Yeah.
that.
Maybe game 3, who
And
knows?
yeah, maybe. And honestly, that's how last series went too, right? It's been a reflection of last series again, in so many ways. Cue all of the Vasi stats after a loss. Like,
Oh
oh, we're gonna hear
gosh.
all those today. It's okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. Martin scores are up 1-0. And then it's playoff Morgan who shows up, right? And he's got
Oh
that
yeah.
beautiful assist on the first Tavares goal. Tavares with a lovely snipe. There was somebody that had some good net front coverage there too. I don't know if it was Kerfoot or Willie, but they laid down a sneaky little screen on Vasi, and
I
I
think
feel
it
like
was
that
Willie
helped.
actually. Or no,
Okay.
sorry. It might have been Kerfoot, because I think Willie was in the corner. Either or, whoever it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Someone said a sneaky screen, and I think
Yeah.
that definitely contributed. And yeah, Morgan was flying. I think we do got to talk about as well. We had the Geo versus Bogo fight. That one, I saw that happen, and my dad's like, "Yeah, let's freaking go, let's go, Geo." And I'm like, I don't really like Geo for Bogo. I think that's a great trade for Tampa. 5 minutes with no Geo versus 5 minutes with no Bogo. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, but definitely shout out to Gio for taking that fight. It wasn't the fight he was looking for, which is the funniest part, right? If you go back and watch the replay, Gio has his gloves off with Belmar. Belmar has his gloves off. Bogo comes out of nowhere, and
that's
Belmar just kind of skated off. It was weird.
I don't even know if I want to make that trade off either. Like, I know
No, you
Belmar
don't.
scored last game, but I mean, if it's anybody on that line, you want him taking somebody like, I don't know, Pat Maroon or Corey Perry, which if I'm not mistaken, I think Corey Perry it was Pat Maroon, or this might have been after, but Pat Maroon gave Gio a
That was
beautiful,
the third, yeah.
Timeless face wash, dude. I screamed out, I'm like, that's elder abuse right there. Get this man, get this man to the police station right now.
Okay.
Did Bogosian and did Bogosian or O'Reilly play it? Not O'Reilly. Did Bogosian and Giordano play together?
No, 1 year apart. So Bogo was in the bubble year, the OG bubble year, and then Gio was the season after that. So they didn't cross paths as Leaf. If you wanted like that cool reflection, it would have been like Bogo versus Shen, because both guys played for both teams. That would have been that would have been the cool one there. But no, I do want to talk a little bit about there was the McCabe penalty too on Perry, also in the first period, where McCabe, it wasn't even a face wash. Like I don't know if he was going for his head, but he just gave him a shove and he gave him it soft. 5 inches too high. I do think it was a soft call, but I also think just no better. Like literally just lower your head 5 inches, and that's not a call. Perry took that to the face. He immediately skated away. He's like, yeah, I'm getting that call. I'm not doing anything else. He's such a greasy rat. Like,
Well, it helps when you when you understand how to play the rat role, something that one guy on the Leafs, maybe, he takes it too far sometimes. But Corey Perry knows how to do it well. He adds in that extra whiplash with his head. And, that is like the, doing something like that can determine whether you get the call or not, right? You got to add in the theatrics or else it's not going to happen, right?
All right. So,
but yeah,
there was that call.
Yeah, 100%. That was a rough call in hindsight, but I think me and Christian could agree. We said it. We were like, it's soft, but you can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't do that.
So there was another soft call after that. This was the Nyes call. This was the hooking.
Yeah.
That was another soft call, and I'm looking at the replay right now. He never touches the hands, and Paul's like stick handling is never impeded in any way. That one I take more offense to from the refs, but I think the moral of the story is, and this is something I don't know if I voiced it too much on our post game, but I've definitely voiced it like in our chat with my friends, whoever I talked about the games. It's like I don't give the Leafs the ref excuse almost ever, like only in very rare circumstances, because the refs put you on the PK, but they don't put the puck in the net. And that's what happened last night. Refs put us on the PK early in game one with a 1-0 lead. Like this is still like absolutely a game. And we were fantastic on those 2 penalty kills. Marner was telegraphing passes like no tomorrow. We were clearing the puck. They could not get set up for much. And when they did, Sammy was there. Sammy made a huge save. I think it was on point in the slot. That right there was fantastic for his confidence. So, I like I said, I don't give the ref excuse, because when the Leafs are on their game, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So that was great to see.
I also just wanted to shout out Justin Hall. I think he's on your penalty kill.
Blocks, eh?
He's eating like
stammer onesies, bro.
Like from the hand of Zeus. Like Zeus's thunderbolt. He's just taking them. And it happened more than 3 times in the game based on the past 2 games I've seen, right?
Yeah.
Especially in game 1. But I remember in game 2 he just ate one and then right away skated off to the bench.
He had 3 blocks last night.
Yeah. I if I'm not mistaken, I believe he leads the team in shots. Like that is his role, is to put he's got the frame for it, right? And that's not to say that you need the frame, because if you look, Marner was also doing the same. He was laying his body out for some of those block
He's underrated
shots, right?
on the penalty kill.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my god, yeah, he's fantastic. But, he's the engine there.
In terms of Hall, it kind of feels like it can go like it's either you want to like the guy, not even that you love the guy, but you kind of feel bad for the criticism that he gets. And sometimes it's well-deserved criticism, but there are times where it's just not needed criticism. Justin Hall is a perfectly adequate 6D. The problem is when he starts to play a bigger role on the team, that's where he starts to get overexposed, right?
I don't think you complain about him last game. I don't think there's much to
Well,
he was on for goals against, but like they weren't directly his fault. He contributed to it, but it wasn't like he looked at the huge Justin Hall gaff and be like, "Oh my God, Hall, what the hell
yeah.
are you doing?"
So
It was more Gio than it was Hall.
I saw at least 15 separate videos and plenty of people commenting anywhere. They were saying, well, he was on the ice for 6 of the 7 goals. If you want to watch those goals back, I would say maybe he's directly at fault for 1 to 2 of them, which in fairness, you don't want to be at fault for any of them, right? 100%. But sometimes stuff happens, right? It at the end of the day, you're playing on knife shoes on ice with a little rubber puck that could go anywhere, right? So anything can happen in hockey, and we know this pretty well.
The only bad goal that I saw you guys give up yesterday, it was this when you guys were already winning 3-1, I believe, and then Ian Cole comes in, makes Sammy bite.
That was the 3-1 goal, yeah.
Yeah. And then
that was a defensive breakdown that I think also had a bunch to do with the fact that we were on for a lot that shift. We'll get to the second period too, because that was ironically they scored that goal. Tampa did during the Leafs' best stretch of hockey, where we didn't get a goal. Right, we went 9 minutes basically just cycling through their zone, and Tampa ended up scoring. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. We will. That was
100%.
hands down. That's so funny because that was hands down their best like stretch of they were completely pummeling Tampa in their own zone and they couldn't find a way through.
It was also Vasi's best stretch, so that's probably why we look back at it and say, "Oh, where were the goals?" But back in the first period, we also have the Willie goal as well, and this is off of the Stamkos double minor on TJ Brody. And Cooper was definitely confused about what the hell was going on after that goal. They had a zoom in on his face, and he was like he was dazed, man. But Willie with another snipe, and he's a guy that I highlighted as the difference between Toronto's roster and Tampa's roster. Just when you go for a 1-for-1, like you can go Kucherov Point versus Marner Matthews, probably a saw off, maybe edge to Tampa in the playoffs. Stamkos Tavares, probably edge to Stamkos. Nylander versus Hagel.
Oh,
Hagel. Whoever you want to say is the 4, right? Or sorry, the 5 here. No, the 4. Whoever's the 4, Willie's winning that battle. Give me Killorn, Cirelli, Hagel, whoever you want to say is Tampa's 4 on forward. It's Willie through and through. He kind of owns Vasi a little bit here, man. Like
back-to-back games.
He snipes on him. He snipes on him, man. That was really nice to see. And I know I brought up Hagel there. I just want to say, like, do you have a single Hagel memory from either of these 2 games, Dave? Because I haven't noticed him once.
Not like last year, 100%.
Yeah,
so maybe
last year he was in our kitchen.
So maybe that's not to say like it's on him, but it maybe now that we're looking for him, because at the end of the day,
I gotta keep an eye out now.
He's a middle 6 forward. Are you gonna notice him every single game? Right? He kind of jumps between that second. He was on that third line last year, and that's where he seemed to do a lot of his damage, lower in the lineup, because he's probably more a high-end third liner. Now, to that point, you kind of noticed him every single game because he was kind of bullying whoever was on that third line. But this year, where he's had to make the jump up, it just kind of feels that he's been a bit more stymied than last year, which, you know what, all credit is due to the Leafs, defensive schemes and whatever. But I think he might just be a little bit in over his head right now with Tampa. I think he's still a great player. I think maybe that position for him isn't the position for him to succeed. And maybe that's something that John Cooper looks at for game 3. Maybe he'll I don't even know who he'd want to bring up there, but maybe to get somebody like Hagel going, who was actually a very good playoff performer all playoffs for them last year. Maybe that's who you want to get going again, and you drop him down just a little bit so maybe he gets more favorable matchups.
They just might have
all good points.
They might just have to split up the line, like the super line, the point,
Yeah, maybe.
Stamkos, Kucherov line. They might have to split it up, get more depth going because obviously,
Well, it looks like that's where the Leafs' biggest
took over.
improvement came from, right? Because the Leafs did load up that their top six, I would say, and especially their second line with their captain on it, and it kind of left their bottom six exposed. But this game, I think we have to say all credit to that bottom six. Dropping O'Reilly
Ooh,
down,
that
dude.
third line was dynamite.
You know what? That third line was dynamite, and I will give my credit to the fourth line, who was
Yes,
subtly dynamite as well. That was a fantastic 4-line performance yesterday, like 5 stars, I would say, all the way across.
One
So
more
Dave,
thing.
this goes back to what we. Sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
One more thing about the Matthews, sorry, the Nylander goal before we move off. I want to shout out Matthews for collection of the puck, bringing it down, wrapping it around to the blue line, and just swinging it tape to tape to Nylander, who was the open man at the time.
Yeah.
That sequence was amazing, and it was clean in the sense that he drew a defender out, came around, switched the play, and gave the other bomb, like the other shooter on the power play, a chance to score. So
that I would say, Brian, that shades of, I would say, 2017, 2018 Austin Matthews, William Nylander, when they were the primary matchup. That is what we expected more, or where we saw a lot more. Now with Marner, it kind of feels like it's, Austin Matthews is that automatic shooting threat, which 100%, right? But when you have a shot like Nylander on there who can load it up and who did tonight, right? And I'm not going to discredit Mitch Marner, who has an underrated shot, but it's just not really in his game. You really notice when Austin Matthews does those little subtle playmaking things. And that's what he's like really, really good at. Like it's a very underrated part of his game, because everybody thinks, 60 goals with the shot, but a lot of those goals are made from his frame and his hockey IQ and his passing sense.
It's his puck retrieval, man. Like he's fantastic along the boards. He doesn't lose many of those battles, and the same can be said for Tavares, O'Reilly, especially. That's a skill that he has for sure. Even Willie, like he's great at stick lifting in the corner to keep a puck in the zone. Back to the fourth line for 1 second. I just wanted to talk about something that we mentioned in game one, which was the tinkering and the overcoaching with the fourth line and whatever. And seeing how the fourth line performed tonight, it puts us into Keith's head, where he tried to be like, listen, fourth line, this is an opportunity for you guys to show that I can trust you in all situations. And it didn't work in game one, but it worked tonight. I think they definitely gained some trust with their coach, with the rest of their team. I think that basically covers first period.
Yeah.
3-0 Leafs after 3-0 Tampa in game one. So lots of mirrored reflections there.
I mean, I guess we'll just jump right into the second period, because the second period, I think, got just off to just as hot of a hot start, minus the goals, basically, right? So we alluded to it before, but it felt like that first. When did Tampa score the goal? Like, exactly. Do you guys have the box score in front of you?
Yeah, I got it right here. So literally 9 minutes in.
9 minutes in.
8:58 into the period. Yeah.
So I would say for 8 minutes and 50 seconds, the Leafs were like I can't even I can't even fathom a stretch that good for one of these Leafs teams. And it was maybe there probably was, but it literally seemed like, dude, all 4 lines were coming on, and all 4 lines were shutting it down, putting the puck deep, getting the puck, their puck retrievals. I think one of the most, I don't know if I want to say underrated points on this team, somebody who I honestly felt could have got a couple of goals tonight, was Matthew Nyes. He had a fantastic chance on this stretch here. So good that even Brian commented, like, how did that not go in, or something along those lines, right? Matthew Nyes played out of his mind, and that's great to see. I'd love to see that more in game 3. But
were you talking about that, like the play where he got the puck in the corner, brought it in like
Yes.
a power forward. Yeah. Logan Cooley
Oh.
maybe taught him that move. I don't know.
Maybe.
But
It
no,
was
Who knows?
nice.
It was very
it was
nice.
fantastic. And
Very
it's
nice. I'm
I,
sorry.
I, I was a little bit surprised to see him even attempt that, in his first playoff game. You gotta be some jitters. Like the whole night, he just looked
Yeah.
calm,
Calm.
cold. The only time he looked a little bit pissed off was obviously the penalties he took, rightfully so. But the whole night he looked like he was a natural in it. And I think that the idea of having a youthful spark that has some not veteran experience, not per se, because like it's the opposite, but he showed up and he's ready for the moment, kind of a thing. Like he's mentally there, if that makes sense. And I think that's a
100%.
good change for what you guys had in the past years.
Yeah, there was really only a singular moment that I said, okay, maybe we don't like to see that. It was just the one turnover in our zone where he was along his half wall and he was trying to get the puck out of the zone and he kind of just threw a flimsy backhand and didn't get out. If that's our biggest complaint of a guy in his first playoff game and the rest is all rosy compliments, I think we're okay. So he fit in fantastically with O'Reilly and Achari. Like that, he threw hits too. Like Knives was throwing some hits, some of the biggest hits in the game, just finishing checks. It was fantastic to see, and they were definitely part of that 9-minute stretch. But we alluded to the Cole goal, defensive breakdown. I think it honestly was the O'Reilly line that was out there because they were working in the offensive zone.
I think Matthews was out there, so it might have been
Matthews
the
was out
Matthews
there?
line. Yeah.
Okay, so they're working. We got our 9-minute stretch of just complete domination. Puck comes the other way. I'm trying to remember how it exactly broke down.
They had a 4-on-2 from what I can remember, and it seemed
Yeah.
like Hall went to take because it was Hall and Brody back, so both of your defensemen were back, right? But
Yes.
but what you don't want to see is one of your defensemen going after the same guy as your other defenseman. Here's the caveat there. The guy that they were going after was Nikita Kucherov, right? So, and it did leave Ian Cole out alone. I think Sammy had a pretty good game. I do feel though, however, he did start to, I kind of felt like he started to cheat a little bit early and he kind of went down just a little bit early, but I'm also not going to fault him on it because dude, Ian Cole's left. If that's an NHL player left alone in the slot, 9 times out of 10, bad things happen to you if you leave him alone. You know what?
Those are surprisingly nice hands from Ian Cole. I can't even lie.
Yeah. Yes, honestly, right? That's the idea of like in basketball. That's the basketball idea where it's like, okay, I've got 2 players and I got to choose who I want to take a 3. We can double team Steph Curry and we can leave it for, I don't know, Draymond to take a 3. Like you do that every day. And that's kind of what the Leafs did here. They said, well, it's Nikita Kucherov or Ian freaking Cole. Let's see Ian Cole's hands. And hey, I mean, he showed them. So kudos to Ian Cole, man. It was a nice backhand there.
So when Ian Cole scored and made it 3-1, honestly, did you guys get a little bit jittery?
Oh, my heart sank.
Listen, dude, I said in the chat, I said, like, it's hilarious how fragile we are as a fan base that we have a 3-0 lead. We get scored on 3-1 and the building goes quiet. We have a 2-goal lead and the building went quiet. I'm not saying like it was like pins and needles, but it was not what it felt like.
Noticeable drop off.
Noticeable drop off. And how many other arenas in the league does that happen in? Probably not many, like maybe 5. I don't know. I think maybe the Devils arena right now would feel like that.
Man, like a ghost town in there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
well. Yeah. Anyways, that was I feel like we got to have a little bit thicker skin than that, personally. But anyways, Tavares fixed it all, right? And not just Tavares. Like Tavares was the finisher, but that was actually a nice play by Willie to bring it into the zone. He drops it for Riley, and then Riley just kind of feathered a shot on net. Like he was not trying to score with that. He knew exactly what he was doing. And Tavares is there to clean it up. We got to the net front a lot in that game last night. And we talked about Tampa could not clear the net front, just like we couldn't in game 1. And Tavares was definitely a recipient of the free spots, the bingo free spot that we talked about last game. Yeah. Anything on that Tavares goal for you guys?
Well, it's clear to me through the 2 games that the Leafs clearly have a way to beat Vasilevsky, and that's taking out his eyes, right? I could count, I think, not like of the 10 goals that the Leafs scored, I would say 8 of them were with a bit of traffic in front of the net, trying to either drum up a deflection or just trying to get a shot through by means of, standing in front, right? So there's clearly a game plan that the Leafs have been putting to practice, right? That might be the key. Are you the question is now, are you going to be able to get like free reign in front of Vasilevsky again now, game 3 and game 4 in Tampa Bay, where I think the Leafs are going to find their first, or not their first, their biggest test to come out with wins. If you're able to kind of stick to that same game plan, I legitimately think you could probably put a dent in the armor a lot more than other teams could. Now it's just a matter of putting that to practice, right?
I like
the test.
I like the take of trying to expose Vasilevsky's like issue with covering screen, especially because for a fact that Hedman's out and Chernak's out. These are two big guys, and honestly, the whole game you can tell that they're kind of not
Very
there.
noticeable. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt bad for Sergachev because he's realistically like trying to carry the weight of two main guys, right? But
It's
regardless-
crazy just thinking about like who the rest of the defense were last night. Like it's Darren Radish, who we barely knew existed 2 nights ago.
I thought it was
we were
Taylor.
like, Taylor? What? Taylor plays the front. Like we
I
just
was like,
didn't
wait,
know.
I thought he played wing.
Yeah. So Darren Taylor Radish, Nick Perbix in his second playoff game as well, who had a
Silky
great
hands
game
in
one.
goal.
Silky hands, but Silky hands and Cole. Bogo, who was a 7 defenseman coming into the series. I mean, he actually played pretty well. I didn't really hate him. I don't know if he really got burnt for any of the goals, but he was definitely a physical presence. Sergachev, we talked about. And do you guys remember who the other defenseman was? I remember, and it took me forever to figure out. So I've got Perbix, Bogo, Radish, Sergachev, Cole. Missing one.
I don't remember. No.
It's Hayden Fleury. Did you guys
Oh,
know
that's
it's Hayden
right.
Fleury?
That's right. Yeah. Because I made a comment before the game. Somebody was like, oh, yeah, Hayden Fleury's drawing in. And I was like, wait, wasn't that he was the pick after Marner, right?
He's a first round pick.
No, you're thinking of Hannafin.
Oh,
But
Hannafin.
he was on the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
And he made the rounds. He absolutely made the rounds. He was on Seattle last year, I think. And he found his way to Tampa. Yesterday we learned. So like those are some, I don't want to call them boat anchors, but number 6, number 7 defenseman in Fleury, Bogo. I actually like Perfect still, and Radish has been okay. Cole, but Bogo and Fleury, like that's not ideal. If those are your Chernak and Hedman replacements, yeah, it's definitely going to be noticeable. You're going to need a lot less cross checks in the front of the net.
I just wanted to say this quickly. Dave, there's a chance that you're thinking about Hayden Fleury because he was the pick before Nylander.
Nylander, that's what I knew. There was one because there was talk about one of the Leafs picks where it was like, oh, they should have went with Hayden Fleury. I couldn't remember if it was Marner or Nylander. Okay, so
But
yeah, that's what
Christian,
it was.
I agree with you in the sense that Hedman's like the top 3-5 defenseman in the league. Arguably the best defenseman in the league. He's gone. Chernak's a top 3 defenseman on any team in the league. He's gone. Those are big shoes to fill. And I don't know. I felt like the Bolts defense last night was like a skeleton of what it should have been. Clearly because obviously they're missing pieces, but missing big bones there.
Our 5-1 goal is the 4th line that we alluded to. You have Zach Aston Reese on the doorstep, picking up a greasy little rebound. Vasi can't cover it. The puck is just there in the crease, and the Tsar puts one away for his first playoff goal as a Leaf. And the way those guys celebrated was awesome. They all, Lafferty, Camp, Aston Reese, all go to the huddle, and they were just like, yeah, like it was hilarious, man. That was great to see.
Did Tsar redeem himself for last game?
The 4th line redeemed himself. Yeah. It's not like there's anyone on the doorstep that could take his spot right now. So he's got another 2 games to keep it up before there's any other type of lineup decision to be made, right? So that was nice to see. And that was another greasy goal. Net front, once again, like they got to the dirty areas. The whole team did. And then we had the 6-1 goal. And the 6-1 goal is Mitch Marner, similar spot, similar shot, and he goes off of a Tampa Bay forward, Brandon Hagel, and it rides up into the net. Sometimes, you know, what's the saying? Gotta be good to be lucky, lucky to be good. Leafs for that last night. They got some luck where they might not have in past playoff experiences. This is just one game, but that was nice to see for Mitch. I really do feel like those 3 points that I thought were empty calorie in game one gave him some peace of mind to not feel pressure that he has to score tonight. And that's why he was able to score last night, if that makes sense. A lot of the guys, like a lot of players in game one, they got their power play cookies. And I think that is peace of mind. Just to know, I don't have zeros on the board. I've got a point. I can go a game without a point without it looking terrible on my box score. Not all of Leafs Nation isn't going to be going crazy. It does. I do think it matters. We talked about this at the end of the season too. The cookies do matter. Going for 100 points, going for 40 goals, it does mean something. You get a little bit of confidence from that. And I think this is huge for Mitch, just to have that confidence. I wore this jersey for Mitch in both games. This is the jersey. I can't remember if he tied the Sittler point streak record or if he broke it in this jersey. He did one of the two. And Mitch needed the good vibes, and he brought the good vibes last night.
100%.
I think that's basically the second period, right? Do you guys have any other?
I think before we do head to the third period, we maybe should take a quick break. And then we'll talk about potentially the most entertaining period of the series, 100% so far. So of 6 periods, that was probably the most entertainment we've got. But on that note, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back to finish up the recap, basically. And we're back. So we covered the first 2 periods before the break. And now we're just going to honestly hop right into the third. I alluded to it before. It was hands down the most entertaining period. Christian, for the sake of me, I don't remember how this period started off. Can you kick us off?
So there's 2 aspects to this here. What I'm trying to figure out is what started first, the extracurriculars or some of the goal scoring. Because Tampa did get one more on the board, and it was Corey Perry, the most famous person in Toronto, the most beloved person in Toronto. Everyone just loves Corey Perry. And this was another just defensive breakdown where he kind of just slides one under Sammy. What do you guys think of Sammy there, man? Like, he just kind of said, screw it, it's 6-1. I'm going to do this old school. And I don't really hate it because he could have had that too, man. Like, Perry just kind of, he threw it through the slightest hole under Sammy. I think that would have been a classic if Sammy makes that save.
Oh, yeah. Dude, the roof would have exploded if Sammy made that save. If there's one thing Toronto loves, it's a good goaltender save. Like, I remember Freddie used to make some crazy saves, and the building would erupt. In that Boston series, those 2 Boston series especially, oh man.
I'll never forget the Pasta 6 save. The stick save on Pasta is just,
my God. Man. So I think you're right. I think that goal did come first, right? So that would have cut the lead to 5-2. Was it 5-1 or 6-1?
That was 6-2. 6-2 lead at this point.
6-2.
We then have some of the extracurriculars. I mean, it's a heavyweight tilt. It's Tanner Jeannot entering the lineup, entering the series against Luke Shen. These are 2 dudes who can throw some punches, man.
I do have to say, for someone who Tampa Bay gave up, a King's ransom, like 5 picks and
5 picks.
They gave up 5 picks, and who was the player was it Cody Glass that they gave up as well? There was a player in there too.
I can't remember.
There was a player. I'm almost certain. So it was like 6 pieces, I think. For a team that gave up that much, I won't lie to you, didn't really notice.
It's Radish, no?
No, Radish.
No. That's gonna bother us, but
yeah,
no, you're
we'll
right.
Find it out.
For somebody that costed that much, that's the only time I noticed him the whole game.
Yeah.
Well, Jeannot.
Okay, so to play devil's advocate for Tanner Jeannot, that was his first playoff. Like, he didn't play last game because of an injury he sustained in the regular season, right? I personally, I was like, I don't even know. Like, when I saw the injury happen, it was after a Leaf game. I think they had showed it. I was like, I don't even know if he's going to be ready for round 1 of the playoffs. Like, that looked like a really, really tough injury to take that close to playoff time. So hats off to him for coming back. But there clearly might be something still lingering with him, right? That was not the same Tanner Jeannot that we saw, a few times over the past couple of years with the Preds. So on that note, I think like, a good for him for stepping up to the bell. He realized that Tampa needed to do something quick. That game was like quicksand for them. It just completely escaped them. So what's the best thing to do is to just start chucking knuckles, dude. And his knuckles got chucked, like wood chucked, lumber chucked, whatever you want to call it. His knuckles after that fight look like, I saw I think Steve Dangle said it the best on his newest LFR. He called it like a big piece of prosciutto without all the fun of the prosciutto, basically. And I have to say that is exactly what that thing looked like. That was a heavyweight tilt in the best like of I don't even know, like, man.
How do you score that round, man? Like that's a draw, bro.
I think so too. I will, maybe I'll be a little bit biased. I think Shen gets the edge because while Jeannot was punching, it looked like he got a lot of helmet contact, which probably led to a couple of really like busted fingers, busted knuckles.
Yeah.
But Luke Shen connected with a couple lefts to the teeth. Like he got him pretty close there to Jeannot's face. So I'll
you
score.
Gotta give credit to Jeannot for even being able to stand up after taking those punches. Like, how did the guy continue to fight after that?
I legitimately think he took three punches, like to the nose, chin, mouth area. I think I'd take one, and I'd be done with it. I think maybe I wouldn't even take one.
I do
want to draw another parallel. Okay, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
It's Callan Foot.
Oh yeah.
Cal Foot. That's right.
And wouldn't it have been nice to have just as instead of on the right side tonight? Like just bring that up. But regardless,
yeah. All right. The parallel I want to draw for Jeannot. I mean, there was a player on the Leafs last year who sustained a knee injury. I think it was knee. It was definitely a leg injury. Very late into the season. They missed game 1 of the series, and I believe they played in game 2. I don't know if they fought. I doubt they fought, but it was Michael Bunting. This exact scenario played out for the Leafs last year. And the point that I'm getting to is Bunting did not play the best in last year's series. He wasn't noticeable. He wasn't a great factor. I don't even remember any of the rough stuff with Bunting, any of the rat stuff. I don't remember any scoring in particular. He was a bit of a non-factor because he was coming off the injury. And we could be seeing that here as Jeannot. Remains to be seen because he's already made an impact. We talked about this fight. So it's already got a step ahead there. A bit more of the theatrics, though. We got Pat Maroon on Giordano. We alluded to this earlier as well. Like, Maroon gives Giordano a good face wash, and then Giordano's on the floor, and Maroon gives him that cross check to the back of the neck. Like, that right there, that is greasy, man. And the best is, like, okay, Maroon gets taken for a penalty there. But as this is going on, you also have Perry versus Justin Hall in a fight. And I mean, I saw that and I just kind of laughed. Like, Hall, know your spots. If you want to fight, I mean, fight someone who you can beat.
Yeah.
You're not beating Corey Perry, man. You're not. And I don't know, maybe there isn't anyone for Justin Hall to beat because I think the last fight he took was in that Oilers game that we got demolished in against Nugent Hopkins.
Oh, and he got demolished in too.
So I don't know. If Hall can't beat Nugent Hopkins, he definitely can't beat Corey Perry. I think Hall's just going to have to retire from the fighting scene early without having ever thrown a punch, to be honest. And that's okay. Nothing to scoff at, Hall. Like, I love the blind courage to go into these battles, but I don't know. It is a bit of a tough look.
But
Perry on that the box after too. Yeah, go ahead.
On that note, I think the most underrated part of this was inadvertently Justin Hall took out kind of like that potential spark plug for Tampa to start, revving up their engine again. Because if it wasn't
about the Gio for Bogo trade, I take the Hall for Perry trade. At least in the third period when the game is out of reach, I take that trade.
Yes. So the point that I'm gonna make here is as all of this is going on, there seemed to have been something going on beside the penalty box. So as we'll commonly refer to him now, yellow sweater guy. So this guy who had like, beside the box seats, there are differing stories going around. Some people are saying that he started to try to climb the glass. This guy, some people are saying that he pushed the pane. He was starting to push it over, which both things you can't do if you're a spectator to the sport,
Yeah.
right? I don't agree
There's a
with any of
line.
that. There is a line. And he most likely crossed it because he was kicked out of the game, and he might be serving like a lifetime ban from the Scotiabank Arena, which might be a big yikes, right? After dropping like $5,000 for that ticket, that's a huge yikes. But on that note, it kind of felt like everything was just spiraling down the drain for Tampa. Like in that instance, Corey Perry gets tossed out of the game, right? I think at that point he was too much of a liability. He started yelling at somebody on the ice. I believe it was John Tavares. I think that's who the camera panned to. And he might have said something or did something to get him thrown out. So Justin Hall inadvertently took out a lot of the sting for that Tampa Bay comeback potentially, or whatever. Like
they made their statement. They made their statement.
100%.
They made their point clear. Like, yes, you guys beat us, but we're gonna make you guys feel it.
So
we're gonna make you
here's
guys
the
know.
thing: they made their statement, whatever. But do you feel that like they beat the Leafs in this physical battle? They didn't. Like we went toe to toe with them, right? That's
think
the thing. Like I don't feel like they imposed. Like we
yeah.
talked about applying pressure or feeling it. I don't think the Leafs felt the pressure physically there. Like I think we rose to that challenge and said, "You want to fight? I mean, let's do it." Right?
But it's also the idea that when you're put in a situation, you're humiliated, you're down, what is it, 7-2 at this point? It's like, if you're not gonna, you have to at least try something. You have to at least try to impose yourself, and that's where I give the Bolts credit for that. But yes, it's true. The Leafs
do that in last game. We talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah. That Hall, or I mean, that Perry chirping from the box. Like I'm looking at a GIF of it now. Like we talk about how Perry's nickname is the Worm. Like my God, this guy looks like he's just reveling in the moment. Like he loves that stuff. He's laughing. He's telling. I think he's telling Hall sit the hell down.
Oh, was it to Hall? Yeah. I mean, dude, he was firing off at anybody he could. He was firing it off at the fans in the box as well. Like the people right beside it, everybody was getting the smoke from Corey Perry.
Maroon was, they all were.
Yeah.
The story I heard with Yellow Sweater was that he apparently like pounded his chest or something. And I mean, that's
the
bold of you to do to an NHL player who would absolutely destroy you if there wasn't a pane of glass there.
Yeah,
right?
big
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, Perry giving it to the fans though. How about the fans giving it to Perry?
Yeah, so that's the next point, right? And I feel you brought up the point of like Perry reveling in all of that. I think that was the magnum opus of revelment, or whatever you want to call it. As he's walking off, he's getting the chorus of boos and jeers from the crowd. And as the camera is focusing on Corey Perry's face, the biggest shit-eating grin he's got, like I've never seen somebody smile as maniacally as that on the ice in my life. Yeah. He was feeding off of that negative energy. I don't know who. I know he also then turned around after and started giving it to another fan in the crowd who must have said something completely deranged to him, because if you're getting that type of reaction from him, listen,
as a neutral, I kind of like it. That's the first time I've ever
as a not neutral, I like it too.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
I'm sorry, I do.
So that's the first time I've ever heard like chants in the ACC Scotiabank Arena. That's not a boo. Like,
yeah, or boo to the other team,
or like Jays, or let's go Jays, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
I think what I'm trying to say though too is like, listen, Perry's obviously on the opposing team. I definitely hate him during the series, but it's a respectful hate, right?
Yes.
Like anybody takes this guy on their team.
And you know what? It just makes makes the playoff series that much better, because he is the villain. He is the enemy now.
Just considering the fact that we almost had the villain too, right? That's one of the stories, is that we kind of had to choose between Simmons and Perry, and we chose Simmons. Like it's another wrinkle to the fold, right? It's interesting. Yeah, the Perry sucks chant was pretty cool. Definitely loved that. Tavares gets his hat trick. Back to the actual hockey. Brian missed it. It was Tavares in the corner, and they just kind of gave him space. It was a power play goal, I believe. I
He
don't
had
know
a
if it was
free
on the
lane right to the
5-on-3.
net. Like
Had a free lane.
that was
He
crazy.
just kind of inched closer and closer to the net, threw on a backhand. Vasti should have had this one too. And it's actually Vasti who ends up putting it in. It's sitting behind him, and he moves his legs together to try and squeeze it, and he inadvertently kicks the puck, not kicks the puck in, but he slides that puck into the back of the net. Not much of a celebration from JT because, I mean, it's a 7-2 game. We let the hats do the work. There was that one big hat that was thrown. That was cool. That was
Yeah.
funny. And I think it was on that penalty. It might have been on the other 5-on-3 where we just noticed Luke Shen going back to the box during play. That was weird too.
Yeah.
That was weird. And listen, I mean, he probably deserved.
He
the
went up for a
penalty.
free
I
skate.
mean, yeah. Like, I get if you're a Tampa fan and you're saying, "What the hell? Where's the penalty there?" I get that. Totally get that. I mean, Dave also mentioned, just to go back to the second period, very, very briefly. I mentioned, fellas, wasn't it nice to watch 5-on-5 hockey for once? Like 20 minutes of 5-on-5 hockey. That was really nice. And maybe Tampa deserved a call or two. There was one Matthews play at our defensive line where he kind of just totally interfered with someone. I don't know if it was a cross check or just like a.
Oh, dude.
Was that when Sorelli went to the bench with his head? Was it that play? Okay. So yeah, so it was a cross check, and Sorelli is visibly in distraught after that one. Distraught's the wrong word. I make it seem like he's saying, "No, I got hit." Like, no, he's in physical pain. So yeah, there definitely could have been a call there. I get that if you're a Tampa fan. I do get that. But going back to the third, we have some hockey. We have all of this stuff. There was also Mikhail Sergachev getting thrown out. Like, they were just throwing everyone out at this point.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we remember the Sergachev one. Like, it was just he was yapping to someone, throwing cross checks, and they just said, "All right, dude, we're just gonna throw you off now before we even do anything else."
I think at one point there was it was legitimately like Nick Perbix and probably Hayden Fleury left on that defensive end because Cole took a penalty. Sergachev got thrown out. Somebody else, like, there was legitimately like 2 or 3 defensemen left by the end of the game. But yeah, that was a crazy third period, like hands down, from top to bottom. Like I want to thank, but like I want to give my shout out to the crowd at the Scotiabank Arena. We've seen it in the regular season. It has the mantra of kind of being like a graveyard. It is the lower bowl where all the suits are coming in after work. You know, they're coming in off of Bay Street, those big money lawyers, they're talking to their clients, and it just kind of doesn't seem like there's a real atmosphere going on. Once the playoffs hit, I have to say the Scotiabank Arena turns into a madhouse, and last night was no different. I think the Scotiabank, like the players really fed in off of that electric energy all game. And it was something that, you know what, the fans deserve after that first game, you know, where they needed something to lift them up. So I want to shout out to all the fans that were in attendance that game. They made that arena look like a playoff arena.
Scotiabank is more intimidating than Emily Arena. Like, I think that's fair to say, right?
Oh, right now it might be.
Great testament. We'll see if we can get to TD Garden levels of intimidation one day.
I don't know. The whole city needs to change for that to happen. We all need to be the biggest, like, I don't know, jerks to.
We all have to like get kicked in the face 5 times before going into the game.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at some of the time on ice spreads here, specifically for the defensemen. Who do you think led Tampa Bay's D-men in time on ice?
Let's say Ian Cole.
Yeah.
So he was close. So he played 21-21. It was Darren Radish who played 22 minutes.
Really?
So interesting. Not even Sergachev. Sergachev at 21-48.
He also
got thrown
out.
Interesting.
Kicked out as well, right?
Yeah. Got thrown out by like what, with maybe 5 minutes left. So I mean, maybe
there's
it's
a couple of shifts there.
30 seconds.
Yeah, it probably ends up the same. Yeah.
But I think the point you're trying to make is, wow, Darren Radish, like, you know,
he stepped up.
He was asked to call. I don't know if you want to say stepped up in a 7-2 game, but maybe he had to. He was kind of just thrown in there, basically, right? So, you know, good for him for putting up those types of numbers, I guess.
For the Leafs, it was TJ Brody leading the way with 23 minutes. Next closest were McCabe and Riley, separated by 1 second. 20 minutes and 3 seconds for McCabe. 20 minutes and 4 seconds for Riley. So yeah, that makes sense because Shen, Hall, and Giordano fought. So you got the three guys who didn't fight, and they led the way. Definitely makes sense there.
So I have a question for you guys actually.
Yeah.
Assume Chernak and Hedman don't come back for the rest of the series, and the Leafs win convincingly in, let's say, 6 games. Is there an asterisk there?
No, I don't think there's ever an asterisk. If there's no asterisk beside like a Tampa Cup win and with like no fans, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you could ever put an asterisk beside anything in sports. Like, anything could happen. Dude, you could call in Zach Bogosian from the 7th D and he could score the overtime winning goal. Are we going to put an asterisk beside it because somebody got hurt in front of him? No. You need your guys to step up if the bigger guys are going down, right?
Do you put an asterisk on the bubble season, Toronto versus Montreal? Tavares goes out in game 1 and is out for the series? Hell no. That's an embarrassing
they took
loss.
a fat L.
And we barely ever talk about the fact that Tavares wasn't there because we shouldn't. Like you should still win that series convincingly. So
yeah,
they almost did. But anyways.
So where I'm going with this is that does it scratch the itch for you guys as fans if that's the case?
I think the only thing that will scratch the only thing that scratches the itch is the W. Like, I think regardless, dude, Tampa was coming in. I think everybody could kind of see that they were coming in probably a little bit more labored than in years past. So to see somebody go down with a type of injury so early on, especially, I think at this point it's just win, and then maybe we'll look back and be like, well, you know what, we definitely were aided with, you know, the lack of Victor Hedman. I'll bring another point to you, Brian. In 2019, the Toronto Raptors won the NBA championship, right?
Yeah.
That series against the Golden State Warriors, who had won, I think it was like 4 of the last 8 championships or 4 of the last 7. You know, the Steph, Clay, Draymond powerhouse with Kevin Durant on the books, at least. You know, they were taken down to basically just Steph Curry by the end of the series. And it was very noticeable, right? The Raptors had basically a fully, I wouldn't say healthy lineup, but they had a full lineup, I would say, for sure. A lot of people like to say, like, do the Raptors deserve that championship? Hell yeah, they do. Look at how they got there. Look at the journey of how they got there. They had to take down, you know, Giannis and the Bucks the round before. They had to
win on his one leg. Right?
Yeah,
like he was not healthy.
Kawhi was not healthy either, right? I don't think anybody was. So to take away from such an accomplishment at this point, it just seems a little bit disingenuous. So, and
another thing I just want to bring up to you guys is just John Cooper. You know, game 1 looked cold. Game 2, noticeably pissed, and he was asked about the Leafs center depth and how they combated you guys this year by dropping Ryan O'Reilly to the 3rd line, right?
Quote.
And what he said was, point Cirelli and Paul all day over anybody in the league. What do you guys think about that?
Dude, he has to say that.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
I told you guys in the chat, I said Cooper is a supreme lawyer and actor and motivator. Give him any title you want. He does a really good job at it. And I just take nothing from what the dude says. I treat it as entertainment. I don't take anything from it. Not because I don't like the guy or disrespect him or whatever, but like he just, every word that comes out of his mouth has a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Like he's not answering questions with pure honesty. He's answering questions with a purpose, and the purpose is for it to do something to whether it be Leafs fan base, Leafs coaching staff, the players. There's a purpose behind everything he says. I enjoy listening to him, but I also don't take much from what he says.
Yeah, 100%. Dude, I think that quote is like, what did you want him to say in that? You wanted him to say, oh man, I think Matthews, Tavares, and O'Reilly are much better than the 3 guys who have got me to 2 straight Stanley Cups and 3 straight Cup finals. Like what?
There was the quote where he said, the Maple Leafs might win the series. like we're gonna go down fight. I don't know what he even said after that, but he said the Maple Leafs might even win this series. Like Sheldon Keefe would never say that. You know what I
No,
mean? It's just
no
like
shot.
imagine Sheldon Keefe coming out and saying,
I
"I
don't
don't know,
think
Tampa
any
might win
other
this series."
coach
Like
would
we'd
say
crucify
that.
him.
Name
Yeah,
me another
but
coach that
and
would
no
say
other
that.
coach gets a pass
Yeah.
because Cooper's just like I said, man. The guy does a really good job. He's a great
So
coach. He's great at everything. So I've got full respect for him. Yeah.
another storyline that I mentioned going into the series was two Russian goalies going at each other, Samsonov and Vasilevsky. The challenger, David versus Goliath, the challenger versus like the king, right? So this game, Vasilevsky chose not to get pulled. In your game, Samsonov, in humiliating fashion, did get pulled. Both conceded 6+7,
7.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
6
both
and
conceded
7.
7, but Vasilevsky chose to stay in for the rest of the game. Do you think there's anything to take from that?
Bass is not a human. He's an alien, bro. He's yeah. I don't know what else to say. Like the guy's been doing this for all of his cup runs. Like there was opportunities for him to be pulled. I listened to an interview about a week ago with Curtis McElhinney, and he was also a backup for one of these teams for Tampa. He had the Brian Elliott role, and he basically talked about, yeah, I just got to enjoy my seat on the bench because Rassi doesn't let other people into the net. And I mean, just the history speaks for itself. You let Vasi call his own game here, right? If he
I
wants to stay in,
yeah.
what are you gonna do?
I think he's built up enough of an acumen for you to
Yeah,
say, like, I think the biggest difference is that Samsonov doesn't have that, that playoff pedigree where he could go to Sheldon Keefe and say, no, I'm staying in this game. I fully believe that after that second period, Vasi went to John Cooper and was like, I'm not leaving. Like literally like the Wolf of Wall Street scene. Like he's not leaving that net unless he's, I don't know, gets literally a serious injury, which I'm not hoping for, right? But yeah, it just feels like I think you give Vasi the benefit of the doubt to work his way back. I think Samsonov kind of had to earn his way back to an extent. Like I know he was put right back in that role, and he succeeded, right? Maybe you kind of want to have those 2 goals back. Who knows, right? But I would say for the most part, Sammy played calm and collected. Now the biggest question is, we know the stats, guys. We know the playoff Vasilevsky after a playoff loss stat, at least, right? It's some astronomical number. I don't have it
absurd
in front
number.
of
Yeah,
me, and I don't even want to look it up because it's just gonna make my heart sink before tomorrow night. But I know tomorrow night that number is gonna be plastered all across, wherever you're watching. If you're watching on Sportsnet, if you're watching on TNT, wherever they're showing the game. So now the question is, heading into game 3, how do you get back? Like, how do you the key to this series is breaking that streak. If you break that streak, you give yourself such a good chance to win. You're not going to automatically win the series, but you cannot win the series without breaking that streak, it feels like, right? So
yeah,
how
100%.
do the Maple Leafs go about breaking that? It's like an unbeaten streak. It's like I forget what the exact number is, but it's like he's some crazy number in back to, but like after a loss, he'll bounce back and basically win every game. It's like automatic for him. So Christian, how do you think that the Leafs go about this?
So I look back at this game and I'm trying to think of from a system standpoint, what was the biggest difference from game 1 to game 2, and what's something we can carry over into Tampa. And to me, it's the defense having poise with the puck in our own zone. We were not feeling the pressure in our zone last night. And it's not that the pressure wasn't there. Tampa was still forechecking, maybe not as well as in game 1, but the Leafs weren't free to do whatever they wanted. They had to make some tough plays, whether it like very, very small details. Going into the corner with the Tampa defenseman, coming up with the puck, deciding if you want to throw it up the half wall or do you want to reverse it into our corner because you know that you have support from your other defenseman to then break it out. Those were decisions that we weren't making either fast enough or the correct decisions in game 1. And I think that was the biggest difference. We were breaking out the puck much better last night than we were in game 1. and we weren't icing the puck as much as we were in game one. There was like 5 icings in the first period to start off the series. I don't really remember a stretch even close to that last night. I think that was a huge difference. So I think a lot of the tone, the way to define our tone going into game 3 is going to come from our back end and having that poise and confidence to make the right decisions and make them fast. Morgan Riley was fantastic at it. McCabe, Brody, they all had great games making those quick decisions. So I think that's the key. And I honestly think the offense can take care of itself against Vasi. I think we've shown that it's just pure firepower from guys like Willie who can snipe it. Even if Vasi's a gigantic human being, Willie can find those sweet spots. Marner can sift it through. And it is about that screening, right? That net front presence, having somebody in front. Tavares has done it well. O'Reilly has done it well. That needs to continue. If that continues, there is a recipe to be had that can get to Vasilevsky, I think, consistently from over 2 games. Like I talked about it in our last pod. Putting 3 goals on Vasi in game 1 isn't nothing, I don't think, right? Like it was this recipe we're talking about. Willie's goal in game 1 of the power play was with Tavares standing right in front of Vasi's eyes. It's been proven, even in the games we've lost, this is how you go about it. I think there's a formula there. And I think if we start off on the right foot like we did last night, it can totally be done. I took the Leafs in 5. They got to go and take 2 in Tampa. We're not looking for the split. We're looking for 2. I think if we win game 1 in Tampa, it feels really good. I feel it. I'm feeling good.
I have the
Maybe
number.
that's just Leafs optimism.
I have the number.
Optimism,
I have the record.
Good Lord,
I have the
Bry.
record for
Do it.
and I don't believe it. It's 18
I
and
think
0.
this is like, oh my god, 18 and 0
Yeah.
after a loss. No,
I
Yeah.
was thinking 16
is that
for
going
some
into
reason.
this year?
That's going into. Yeah, I know.
My
I
God.
I read that and I just like hit my face and I was like, "There's no way that's possible."
But it's also 18 and 0, and also like
Never a
look at
back-to-back.
look at the save percentage as well, because there could be games where maybe your offense kind of, this is like a 5-4 game. No. When Vasi wins these games, dude, it's like a shutout. There's a good chance that it's a shutout.
And
or
what
it's
do you
a
think
one-goal
what do you think
game.
his save
940.
percentage? It's higher.
Oh my God.
949. 949.
Higher.
Higher than 949?
It's 970.
Oh, shut up.
Are you insane? Like
No.
that's crazy. That is legitimately insane, dude.
Oh my god.
I don't. It probably isn't updated, but like even then,
I honestly feel like that might be going into last year's series. I don't know if like that sounds almost too high. Like I know we didn't. I don't think we broke the streak because I went through it in my head. We won game 1, lost game 2, won game 3, lost game 4, won game 5.
Yeah, we
like
did it for
went,
sure. 100%.
Right?
It wasn't you guys.
And then
I
Tampa
think
broke the streak because they won 6 and 7. We had him on the ropes in game 6 in overtime, right? That's how close we were to giving them the back-to-back losses.
I don't think he broke it even last year. Like even losing the cup final. Yeah. I think you know what I mean? Like they won, I think
it must have been broken in the cup final, no?
No, because Tampa had won the game before. Because Tampa was then they would have broken before. So maybe it is broken already. But I don't think so.
No, you know who broke it? I think I know who broke it. Didn't the Rangers break it? Didn't Rangers go up 2-0?
You know what?
They went up 2-0.
I think they did.
Yeah.
They might have. Either way, like whether or not that's
an insane record.
Broken, it's still like, that's 18. What is that? 18 and 1, right?
You're right. The Rangers did break it.
Okay. Yeah. It makes Sammy's thing of he's 5-0-1 after giving up 5 goals. Like that looks like minuscule. To this goddamn colossal year's worth of experience stat. My God. I want to hit you guys with something here. Who leads the playoffs in points?
Marner.
Morgan Riley.
It's Mitchie Marnes.
No,
it is Mitchie Marnes.
Yeah.
2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in 2 games. He's tied with Adam Fox, who has 6 assists in 2 games.
He's playing
Those are your
lights out right now.
I love Fox, but I hate that team, man. Whatever.
Oh man.
So one more thing I just wanted to bring up is you guys haven't seen a tight game that's like 5-4 OT yet. What do you guys think we're gonna see that this series, or do you think that every game is gonna be a bloodbath?
I think either game 3 or game 4. I don't know. I would
Just
assume
a
it's going to
one-goal
be game
game.
3. I'll put money down on game 3 being the 1-goal difference maker. Is it going to take it to OT? I'm not sure. But if I'm a betting man, both teams got thrashed in the first 2 games. Like, right, one team got thrashed one team got thrashed the other. I think game 3 is when defenses tighten up, lock down, and offenses maybe are a little bit more stringent. And it looks like the goaltenders might have to pull off
Doesn't play
big.
into our hands. Doesn't play into our hands.
It
if
definitely
that's the
doesn't,
case,
right?
yeah.
100%. But I think maybe one of the bigger questions is Victor Hedman did take skate yesterday, right? I think he'll be back for game 3. But
he
to
has
that
to be.
point, how healthy is he taking the ice? Like, what percentage of Victor Hedman is it? Is it 50% Victor Hedman, which maybe is more likely? And how dangerous is Victor Hedman at 50% compared to 80 or 90%? So I guess we'll have
At the
to
end of the
see. Like,
day,
that's
the end
one
of
of
the
the
day, it's
biggest
still
questions,
Victor
right?
Hedman.
Right,
Yeah,
100%.
like honestly, like 70% Hedman is still scary because I think what you would do in that scenario is say, okay, I've got my boy Sergachev who stepped up this year offensively. I'm not worrying about the offense. My job is just to make these guys' lives horrible in our zone.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's one of the differences. Well, see, I'm looking back to last year and the fact they had McDonough, like that's what McDonough was for them, right? He didn't have to worry about offense. I think he definitely did score in game
Even
5,
somebody like
but
Jan Ruda as well last year.
yeah, he just a steady guy. So I do think 70% of Hedman is probably better than, I don't know, Bogosian, right? Or Hayden Fleury probably would come out. I think it would be Fleury.
Yeah.
So it's still scary if that's the
70% of
case.
Hedman is better than most defensemen in the league.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. For sure.
Did you said Hedman skated? Was that a morning skate or did he take? I don't think he participated in
He did
warm
take
up, right?
warm-ups. He did take morning skate.
Okay, that's interesting. I wonder, man. I wonder if he's gonna play. He probably does, but we said that last game too. I don't know.
You know what? I think this game was more of a we'll hold the boat, basically. We'll hold it down for the
Yeah,
one game.
because even
I
if you come
think
home with a split, that's still a win in Tampa's
it's still a
books,
win
right?
for
So
Tampa. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
but I think, like, come hell or high water, I think he was probably told no, and they're like, okay, we'll wait and see for game 3. He's probably gonna progress a lot more over these the next like 24 hours, basically. And probably he'll probably end up back in, but I don't think, like, Michael Yesimont probably not going to come back. Eric Chernak looked like he really took a blow to the head. I don't believe he'll be back. So those are 2 pluses for the Leafs. But now we're awaiting the Tampa response, right? Can we get in front of the Tampa response, though? If the Leafs come out like they did with that same energy and that same passion like they did last night, I think we could really stymie the Tampa tactic, basically, let's say. So that's going to be something to look for me, is how the Leafs start game 3.
Anything else you
I
guys
think
want to
that's well
mention?
said.
Anything else you guys want
Dave,
to mention?
lineup changes, nothing, right? Obviously,
I don't think so. I think everybody
yeah,
stays as is.
for sure, for sure. I think we covered it all, man.
That's
That was fun.
everything. So I watched last night's game, well, the Leafs game on Hockey Night in Canada. You can watch Hockey Night in Canada on Fubo TV. Shout out to NHL Shop, shout out to Razor, shout out to David too for getting his first viral TikTok. Dave, I'm so happy for you.
Thanks.
You've been coming up with good stuff recently, and hopefully that stuff does well. Check out the articles. I did one. It's the first one I've done in a month, or like the first one that the
No,
whole
it's pretty
site's done
good
in a month.
too.
Thank you.
You
I
know what?
appreciate it.
It's a good article. Good read.
Appreciate it. And yeah, that's everything. Thank you for listening. And these guys will probably be back for game 3, and we'll be back later this week, regardless, for some sort of hockey stuff. But that's everything for this week or this episode.